in the beauty industry who are joining me for this conversation. Right here to my right, I have Miss Angel Beasley, who is a senior buyer of multicultural hair at Walmart, and Miss Tania Golston, who is a senior director of marketing at Revlon. Help me in welcoming them. Okay, so from braids, locks, shaved hair, Beyonce blonde, Shaka Khan red, hair is all over the place. And for some reason, Black women's hair always seems to get tangled in politics in the workplace. Isn't it exhausting at times?
I think it can be exhausting, especially in corporate America. There's a lot of times where you may not even want to change your hair because you don't want people to ask you, what happened to your hair? Is that weave? Is it your hair? Did you cut it? Let me feel it. And so you become the educator in the workplace for a lot of people, teaching them about your hair, letting them know it's not appropriate for them to touch your hair. So that can be a lot of work on top of the real work that you have to do.
Right? So before we get too deeply into this conversation, because I can go on and on, I would love for you to begin to share who you are in your own words and more about your role and the impact that you're able to have on the beauty industry. And we'll start with you, Angel, and then Tania will kick it off to you.
So like she said earlier, I'm Angel Beasley. I manage the multicultural hair business at Walmart, along with hair appliances and hair tools. Some of the impact that I see myself having is making hair products accessible to all people, specifically women of color. We are doing a lot at Walmart to make sure we have the right items in the right stores, that we're expanding space so you actually have an assortment and not a small 4-foot section hidden in the back. And we're also doing a lot of work with integrating our modulars. Modulars is a term you probably don't know, but the shelf. So in stores today, the shelf is separated in a lot of stores with general market on one side and multicultural on the other. And we have found that women just want to be represented and walk down the aisle and find their stuff where it belongs, in the hair aisle, not separated.
Most definitely.
So, hi ladies. I am Tania Golston, and I am the Senior Director of Marketing for Cream of Nature, which is a division of Revlon. And so in my role, I lead new product development along with consumer engagement for Cream of Nature. So are any of you all familiar with the Pure Honey line that Cream of Nature has out? Okay, so that's my baby. So that's my recent baby. So everything that you see on shelf, myself, our team, we work to develop it. We bring together all of the campaigns that you all see that I feel represent you all in this room. As I look across the room, I see diverse skin tones and hairstyles and just that beauty that we all exude as Black women. And so Cream of Nature is a very iconic brand. It's been around for over 40 years. So I feel that I've been very fortunate to work on the brand. I've been with the brand for a little over 12 years. So I've been in that same environment of marketing my entire career set, and I absolutely love it.
That is incredible. So Black hair is popular by demand, but that's nothing new to us. I feel like every decade there's some new trend, something that we should be doing with our hair. But I want to know, what does this moment in time mean to you ladies, personally, also professionally?
Do you want to answer that first?
You go ahead.
Okay. So we know in our history we've had moments of the natural movement. Right now, about 74% of women are natural. In 2012, that was about 36%. In 1999, that was probably 2% because we were all rocking a relaxer and straight hair. But we saw this movement in the 60s and 70s, yes, where women were going natural. People were rocking their beautiful fro, and I see your beautiful fro in the audience. That was commonplace, and there was a shift. It was attached so heavily to the Black Panther movement, and that movement was demonized in politics, right, and how people presented that. We had Angela Davis on the cover of Life magazine, who was rocking her big fro, but also underneath that, America's Most Wanted. And so then there was a shift in the 80s when we went to the Jerry curl, and you had Wave Nouveau, and you rocked the Jerry curl. And then we slowly transitioned. I think it was in 1981 when an employee of American Airlines was fired for having cornrows. So then we walked away from natural hair. So it's beautiful to see it coming back. It's beautiful to see women embracing it. But even if you're not embracing your natural hair, embracing what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you feel beautiful, I think it's amazing, and I hope it continues and we don't have another exit strategy for what is beauty to us.
I love that.
No, and I completely agree with what, Angel said. I think that for me, personally, I'm always very excited and proud of this time because I think that it's very much a time about being able to be your authentic self. And so in the past, we felt that we maybe had to conform to someone else's standards of beauty. And I say that as being very important because we talk a lot about the natural hair movement. And sometimes we talk about natural hair Nazis. And those are the women that jump on the women that are still wearing their hair straight, And I think that at Cream of Nature, we always represent beauty in any way or shape or form that you choose to wear it. You can rock a big fro, you can have big coils, but you can also blow your hair out, and you're just as beautiful, just as celebrated. So I love that this time right now, I feel like it's our time. It's very freeing. It feels good to be able to just wake up and kind of wear our hair in the way that it grows out of our scalp, and to be proud of that, to be able to see leadership, wearing your hair or wearing her hair in that way, I think it's a very empowering time. So for me personally, I'm ecstatic about it. And then professionally for Cream of Nature, we're excited because we've always focused on natural ingredients. So I think Cream of Nature was ahead of the time. We were kind of perfectly positioned to just thrive during this season where everyone is saying, let's take a more natural approach to beauty. Let's take a more natural approach to our entire lifestyle. So I'm so excited and thrilled that this time has come.
That is really good to know. And I have to ask about your personal hair journeys. Tania, you are also a licensed cosmetologist.
Yes.
Fun fact.
Yes.
Killing it in both spaces, right? But have you always worn your hair in this natural tresses, or have you transitioned, going back and forth? And tell me more about why it's important for you to, make sure that you're wearing your hair the way you want to as a professional.
No, I think, okay, so my hair journey, that's a loaded question,
It
okay?
was.
Because it is probably very similar to all of you. I just like to experiment. I like to wear different styles. So I'm not one of those natural women where I'm natural, it's gotta be natural. I'm gonna put color in it. I'm going to put extensions in it. I'm gonna have fun with it. And maybe that is kind of the professional or the licensed cosmetologist in me. I like to have fun with my hair. But one story that I think about the most with my hair journey, I was in grad school. And in grad school, I cut all of my hair off, and I talked someone into kind of like shaving it down, like really low. And I say I talked them into it because I went to 2 barbers and they would not cut my hair. Like they were like, no sis, you can't do that. And so that was before natural hair was popular. And I was just extremely interested in it. And then I kind of fell victim to that corporate kind of, well, you need to conform. And, I was going out for an internship with a big company. And I remember the dean at the time came to me and she said, you need to put a relaxer in your hair, baby. And I said, oh, okay. So I've always been a disruptor. I've always been comfortable, going against the norm. And my journey is much like yours. I have good hair days, and then I have hair days where I'm like, oh, girl, child, don't look at me. But I make them work, and I embrace it. I wear my hair natural. I do twist outs. I do everything. I haven't had braids in about 2 or 3 years. I have these braids, and I love them. And I'm like, why haven't you had them? They are saving me time, okay? I got my time back. I reclaimed my time. So you will probably see these definitely more often. But natural hair, it's so important because I'm also a mother. And so that comes up often in conversation. It's not just about the hairstyle that I choose to wear or how I present myself, but it is what I kind of project onto my son. My son, he sees that it's okay. His hair is actually very long, and he knows that it's okay to wear my hair in a longer form and still be smart and still go to the #1 high school in our district and still excel even with this long hair. And then for mothers who have daughters, oh my goodness, it's so impactful because when you wear your hair in a certain way, you tell your daughter that she's beautiful. You tell her that it is okay to wear your hair as it grows out of your hair. And that's something that we can't take for granted. So oftentimes I want to do something different or I want to straighten my hair, and it never fails that I get a note on social media, I get someone that walks up to me that says, girl, I wore my hair natural because of you, and you empowered me to go natural, and I'm gonna keep doing this, or I'm gonna do my daughter's hair that way. And then I get it, I'm like, this is important. Representation, it really matters.
Most definitely. Angel, what has your journey been like?
So my story is interesting. I've been natural for 10 years now, but going back to first grade is when I first got my perm, and I was really excited about that. I remember going to school because I happened to live in a white neighborhood. All the black kids were bused to my elementary school, so I automatically didn't fit in. I was the only one that didn't have the relaxer, so I remember standing in line going to lunch, and somebody was like, ooh, girl, you permed your hair, I can smell it. And I was like, yes, I did. And being so excited to be part of the group of women or young kids at the time that had relaxers. As I got older, I was a dancer, so I was always trying to fit in to the other people in the room. And as Missy Copeland alluded to, as I cried when she was talking on stage, you're typically the only one. Their ponytails swing, mine stuck out. So always trying to fit in from a hair perspective. Once I got older, I didn't care as much. I've been natural 10 years. I came into corporate America with big natural hair. I was one of the only ones that had this. My hair was dark, it was huge. And people would say, you're not gonna move up in the company because of your hair, because your hair is not straight. And because of my background of being an entrepreneur, having my own businesses, I didn't care as much about what people thought about my hair, and I just rocked it the way I want to rock it. And now at work, I may have braids down to my butt one day. For vacation hair, it may be curly, it may be blown out in curls. I'm sure I have meetings with people like Revlon, like you, and I'll go into a meeting and they'll say, wait, your hair's different. It doesn't look the same, and I'm okay with that. Right. I'm also in the hair care business, so I want people to be comfortable with seeing us in different ways. Statistically, if you look at black women, we change our hair 30 times a year. That's a lot. I'm sure corporate America is a lot less, maybe 2 times a year.
On the weekends, they change it.
Yeah, on the weekends you change it, then you go back to your normal hair. So my journey has always been about being on trend, having the hottest style, whether that's color in my hair or whatever that might be. I had the Holly Berry haircut at one point.
Okay.
So I love to change my hair, and I love this journey with hair.
You talk about changing your hair. I change my hair all the time. I was just black, now Beyonce blonde with a bob. But we want to talk a little bit about consistency, right? I think it's so important that we show up as our authentic selves, but a lot of times that is hard. I heard someone last week in a conversation said that she came to her interview with this, flowing tresses, and the day she started her job, she had her fro, and they were like, wait, what? And she was like, hey, it's me, surprise. So I want to ask you, knew you, right? Right, but how important is it, for women to wear their hair the way they choose starting day one?
I think it just depends on the person and how comfortable you are with yourself. Okay. Like you being comfortable coming in with your natural hair is a journey. If you've had a relaxer for 25, 30 years and you did the big chop, you look in the mirror, you don't know who you are. You haven't grown up with that hair, so you're not connected to it. So I understand the inkling to go in as somebody else, just like you do when you go on a date. A lot of people show up as their quote-unquote best self, and then the real person comes out later. And then you're like, whoa, both of you. But I would encourage everybody to come as who you are, whether that is a straight hair, whether that's a wig, a weave, braids. If they don't want you for that, I wouldn't want to work at that company. If I came to Walmart and interviewed and my boss was like, you know what, I can't do her because she's got natural big hair and it's not corporate enough, I need to find another place to work at because this is part of who I am. This makes me beautiful. This tells my story. And if you don't appreciate my story, you're not going to be able to handle me in the room when I'm up there talking and building strategies and making demands. If you can't accept this, the rest of this is going to be very hard.
That's really good. And you know, Tania, I want to ask you, do we live yet in an anything-goes society when it comes to our hair in the workplace? And are there any do's and don'ts when it comes to professional branding?
I don't think there are do's and don'ts, you know? I mean, I think the first part of the question you said, are we in a society where anything goes? Absolutely not. We're just not. We're not going to erase years and years of bias. Have we moved forward? Yes, we definitely have. I mean, for the first time, look at how many queens, pageant queens we have that are African American. So we've definitely made progress, but I think we would be naive if we think that all of the bias that has existed, you know, for years, that's been erased. I think that social media, though, has made our hair and our journey more accessible. So I think that what we also have to keep in mind is that some of the curiosity that comes about is because they may have actually seen a video or they may have actually seen someone on the news talking about their hair journey and their hair story. So there is some levels of curiosity that I think exists that we have to be comfortable with just because of the unique nature of our hair. But in terms of do's and don'ts, I don't think you should have do's and don'ts. I don't think you should put limits and boundaries on you. I think that you have to show up and you have to own your brand, you know? I think that the only thing I say, you know, don't do, we just have to groom ourselves, you know? We have to groom whatever our hair is gonna be. We have to show up as our best self. But I would never say to someone, don't wear a particular hairstyle or don't wear your hair in a certain way. Because if that's who you are and that makes you unique, again, I guess maybe it's just the marketer in me. When we look for brands that stand out, there are a lot of times those brands that disrupt. They're the brands that have a unique story. So I believe that for me, what I bring to the table is going to be excellent. It's going to be, you know, the top of the line. So my hair is not going to be a part of the conversation because I'm going to deliver. I'm going to over-deliver. Now, if you're younger in your career, I will say you may have to take some different considerations, and I think that's okay. And I think that as Black women, we can't shame other women for taking some different, you know, choices or making different choices. So I do think you have to take into consideration how long you've been in your career. But again, I'm a marketer, so I would say come to the interview, come to the first day looking the same. Let's have some consistent branding, okay? Let's just decide before we go after this great position who we are, and just make sure that we show up, you know, with our best self.
That's really sound advice. Now, when we talk about the don'ts, discrimination is one of the don'ts, which leads me to the Crown Act. Now, I'm going to read from my cue card because this is actually an acronym. So CROWN stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Now, I'm going to read the definition or the law. The CROWN Act ensures protection against discrimination based on hairstyles by extending statutory protection to hair texture and protective styles under the Fair Employment and Housing Act, state and education codes. That was a mouthful, so I have to read it from here. But I want to talk about the CROWN Act because it is very unique. We have a lot of state legislators behind this so that we can show up comfortably without having to be discriminated against or worry about upward mobility in a new way that we haven't been before. So I want to ask, what message do you think the CROWN Act sends to executives in the workplace as well as the women as we show up? And Angel, we'll start with you.
I think to me that is very simple. I love the CROWN Act. Just to give a little background on it, Unilever has partnered with the CROWN Act with Dove to do this work, and the legislation has passed in a lot of different states, and the bill has been presented in a lot of different states. This week alone, it passed in Colorado and Virginia. So shout out to Unilever. They were supposed to be here, but with the coronavirus ban, they weren't able to make it. But to me, what it says is that all hair is professional. You know, we've always had this assumption that a certain type of hair is professional, and they're just making a stance that no matter what your hair looks like, it's professional in schools and in the workplace.
Yeah, very true. Tania?
No, I think that it's almost like it's about time, you know? It's like when you hear that this legislation is being passed, you're like, really? We're in 2020, like,
Why is it even needed?
why are we doing this? I mean, we know why, but that's, really my first reaction. But of course, I'm ecstatic that it's passed. It's long overdue. I mean, it is hurtful as a Black woman when you hear some of the stories of discrimination. It doesn't just happen in corporate America. I mean, this is starting with our babies in schools, being kicked out of schools. And I'm like, oh my, no, you didn't do that to the baby. You did not make her feel inferior because of her hair. So I think it's great, and it's long overdue. I mean, the stories that we hear about discrimination just should not be taking place in this day and age. With the browning of America and all of the different races, skin tones, and textures of hair, it shouldn't exist. But I'm glad now that someone is taking a stand, and we're taking a stand to say, you are beautiful. We see you.
Yeah.
Black women need that support. We have to be empowered to be authentically us, to be unapologetically who we are. And in the workplace, it only makes us better.
I agree. Well said, both of you. Now I have to ask, some of us work in predominantly white states, of course, companies. So I want to know, are there different hair rules? I live in New York. I don't know. Somebody may be from Idaho, Nebraska, Utah. I'm not sure. Middle of America. Okay, yes. She says Deep South and Middle of America. Are there different hair rules in different states, aside of different cultures?
I think there definitely are different rules, not even just in the state, depending on what company you're in. But then there's rules within our community. So, I'm going to ask, this is audience participation, so I'll ask a few questions to you. Raise your hand if you've ever been called, or your hair's ever been called nappy. Raise your hand, or keep your hand up, keep your hand up. Raise your hand if your hair has ever been called bald-headed. Keep your hands up, keep your hands up. B2B. You got buckshots. It's dry. It's nappy. I said nappy. Or it's bad. And then think about who said that to you. Usually it's somebody that looks like you.
Exactly.
And so that cultural difference, whether you're in the South or in the Northeast, differs. I think the Northeast is very more open to how your hair looks. In the South, we have to look a certain way because we're ladies. And so that really, really affects me, and I know it probably affects you, about how we see each other culturally.
Most definitely.
And I think it's time for us to start changing how we talk to each other about each other's hair and really supporting each other more. So no matter if we're in corporate America, in Arkansas, or we're in marketing in New York, we see each other and we're cool with it. And we say, your hair is beautiful and not nappy. Or kinky, which I also don't like that term either.
Language is really important, and it shapes how we see ourselves and how we engage with one another. As a cosmetologist, I really want to hear your insight on that, because you've helped women make decisions, I'm sure, life-changing decisions, whether they're chopping or sewing or stitching, whatever the case may be. So I'd love to hear your take on that.
No, I think that when it comes to where you are, it can have an impact on the knowledge that's available to you, or even the expertise that's available to you. So if you're in some of the big cities, if you're in a New York, if you're in an Atlanta, if you're in a DC, you're gonna have access to a lot of women who are wearing their hair natural, or a lot of natural hairstylists. So I do hear a lot from women who are in areas where there are not as many of us, that they just have trouble locating not just the products, but sometimes the tools that you need, you know? Because we have some different brushes sometimes, you know, that we need to use. And I've had friends that have had amazing jobs, I mean, very, very senior level jobs, but caused them to move into areas where I would say tools and products for us weren't readily accessible. You know, and I'll never forget when I had a friend who has incredible job. She literally called me and said, "Can you send some hair from the beauty supply store because I need to braid my daughter's hair?" And I said, "Where do you live? Where do you live that there is no beauty supply store with the hair? You gotta get out of there." You know, and that was my reaction because I live in this world, you know, where I'm so close and connected. But I don't think that they necessarily can't wear their hair the way that they choose. I think sometimes it's just simply resources and what's accessible to you that makes you maybe make a different choice, because you don't see that the same way you may in, say, in Atlanta or DC, you see the natural hair. And from a cosmetology perspective, I mean, how many of you know if you go to a hairstylist, like, that's your friend, you confide in that person. So as a professional stylist, they're so vital and so important in helping affirm that beauty and helping coach you sometimes along that journey, because not everybody can succeed with YouTube University, as I call it, you know? I mean, and YouTube is great, but even as a stylist, sometimes it's nothing like touching, seeing, and feeling and having someone that can kind of break it down for you.
I like that a lot because so many of us think that we can do it on our own.
Yes.
And we show up and we don't look like our best selves. And then the experience that comes with that at times can be very adverse. Like we talked about the policing within our own community of hair. So I really want to talk about grooming. How important is it for us to have partners as we go on our hair journeys? If we're going natural in the workplace, you said we may not know ourselves after a perm for so many years. So can we, you know, dive into that a little bit?
I think to piggyback on the social media part, I think it's great that people have YouTube and can watch the tutorials. You can also buy products online if you don't have access. But there's nothing like walking down the hall and seeing your sister and being like, am I straight? Am I tight? What do I need to do? I have a lot of people, because I'm in hair, they email me or they DM me and ask me exactly what products do you use? What do you recommend for this hair type, 4C? Most people may not even know what type of hair they have. So I think the community, as we talked about earlier, about us supporting each other, it's so important that we help each other out, whether that's in the hallway, in a DM, through email, especially if somebody is new to their natural journey. Because when you're new to your natural journey, it is very uncomfortable. You don't know what you are doing. And you need somebody to just look at you and say, "You look good today." And that's going to give you the confidence to try again and to twist it out again and wake up. It may not work that day, but then the next day you try a new product, get a new oil, and then voila, your hair is gorgeous.
Well said.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm definitely an advocate for a partner. And I would think all of us here are probably very strategic in our roles within business. Most of you all will not start a project at work without an outline, without some type of kickoff meeting. You may even bring some people together. So if you have not been natural for the last 10, 20 some years, you don't need to start that project without having some advisors or some board members on the team that can encourage you through it. Because as professionals, we have to show up. We don't have the luxury of, you know, the 6 months, the 8 months, the 9 months where we don't know what's going on. We need to make that transition. We still need to look just as good. And you have to actually set some goals. You have to be able to kind of talk through your hair texture, your hair density, and what your hair can do versus the person sitting next to you. Because we can all just say, "Oh, I'd love to have that." And then it's like, well, to get that hair, it's going to take you 3 years to grow out your hair. You know, some people are like, "I've been growing my hair out through Protective Styles for 3 years." to get the style that I want, and I didn't know that that was going to happen. So I think it's very important that we have those partners, because we talk a lot about the transition in the corporate place, but there are other people that have stakes in our hair in that transition. You know, if you all are married, or if you have a man, he may also have some thoughts about your hair, and you may also have to help him, you know, along the journey. So there are other people that are invested, you know, in our look, and they have to be prepared for what is going to take place. Because when you go natural, a lot of women just think, oh, I'm just going to cut it all off and I'm just going to grow my hair natural. And I'm like, no, that's not what you want to do. You would not do that with your hair when it was straight. You know, if you cut your hair off when you were straight, you had a pixie cut, your sides were tapered, your back was tapered, you were cute. And then when you said, okay, I want to go a little bit longer, you let the top grow out. You didn't just let the sides grow out. You didn't do that. So do not do that when we are natural. If we cut our hair off, let's get it shaped. Go to the salon, go to a barber, get the sides tapered, get the back tapered. You're cute. Let this grow out, let this come in, then, okay, now we're looking like something, then you let the sides come in. Okay? But that's important. Let's make that journey work for us, okay?
Oh my goodness, this has been great. At this time, we are going to jump into Q&A. So if you have a question, you can line up at either of the microphones. But before we get to the first question as they make their way to the mics, I want to ask about helping a sister out. We talked about our hair journeys, but I want to talk about those very intimate moments when we have to pull someone to the side. Can you share advice on how we can do that gracefully?
I think this is when I'm going to get a little bit spiritual. I think you have to be led by the Spirit to be able to do that. And you have to understand where they are at that time and whether or not this moment is the time we should have that conversation. And you wait for that before you bombard them with, girl, your hair today is not right. You know, in the way you say it, it has to come from a place of love and a place of, I'm not just going to drop this bomb on you and then walk away. I'm going to tell you what I need to tell you, but then help you get there. Hold their hand through that journey.
Yeah, I think that you have to be willing to not just want to talk to them about it, but you have to be willing to put some money towards it, okay? Because I think that it's one thing to say, well, your hair's not quite looking right, but it's another thing to say, girl, come with me to the salon. And I do that because it's important, and I know that people are struggling. So I say, hey, come to our test salon. We have some stylists there. They're going to talk to you. I know our educators are going to take care of them. Or make a recommendation to that young sister because she may not know. So if someone's struggling, they're not probably struggling because they want to. So I think sometimes we have to be willing to put some dollars up to say, hey, go to my stylist. I want to make an appointment for you. I think she's going to give you a bomb haircut. I think she's going to give you a bomb style. You know, because people they don't know what they don't know. So we got to help each other out. But if you see some hair and it's not right, fix it. I love when people do that because sometimes I'm rushing in the morning and things just go wrong, and my employees, they come and they fix me. And I love them for that, okay? So don't leave a sister out there looking crazy. They're like, girl, you don't even know that piece is just sticking straight up in the air. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
Fix each other's crowns. That's right. All right, we're going to go right here.
Hi, ladies. This is amazing because not too many people in corporate America know how much hair plays a role in who you are and how you show up. My hair is natural, but it's straight this time because I wanted to leave everybody with a bang and a wow. Yes. And then on Monday, we're going to go back to naturally curly. But one time I was in the bathroom in corporate America, and a high-level executive who does not look like us, I had faux locks. And she was washing her hands, and she's like, oh, you like it? And I was taken aback, and I like her. But I was like, your team is majority African-American women. I would think by now you know how to address a woman with different hair. And I didn't know how to react to that. And I felt a certain way, and I spoke to a lot of my colleagues and said, how would you have handled that? But I really felt feeling, I don't know, I can't explain how I felt, but I was just like, did I not look presentable? was I not someone you would want me to lean in a meeting because of my hair? So how would you approach that type of situation if someone saw you and asked you if you like the hair that you're wearing?
Well, if you asked me, I would just be like, absolutely, I paid a lot of money for it. But if you're in a position where it angers you or it triggers something very hurtful at that moment and you can't articulate how you feel in a professional way, a good friend of mine, Danetta, who's sitting right here, gave me the advice of the 72-hour rule. You have 72 hours to think through it, maybe consult a friend about how you approach that person, and then you address it. I would definitely have my bullet points of 1, 2, 3, this is how it made me feel. I want to know what your perspective is on my hair and how you can help me promote in this company with the hair that reflects my culture. And you have African Americans on your team, so how have you dealt with this in the past? Have you never seen anybody with this type of hair? And have that conversation.
Which is odd, because the GVP under her changes her hair every 3 weeks. So it was just odd. I just didn't know how to feel about that. And 72 hours later, I did. Within that time, I approached a couple people, but it just didn't leave a good feeling. I don't know if anyone ever experienced that before, but it made me question other things now. Does my promotion deal with my hair and things of that nature? So, but thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Next question, we'll go right here.
Hi, y'all. Thank you for speaking with us. My name is Kristen. I work in marketing and advertising in the city, New York. And I wanted to ask if y'all could talk a little bit about your professional journey. One of my goals is to eventually work for a brand that serves people who look like me. And so working at an agency is a great space to learn about that, but would love to hear about how y'all got to where you are, because it sounds like some really good dream jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I talked about earlier, for me, I had the MBA and I had the corporate experience. And so I was fortunate enough in grad school to get incredible internships. And so I interned with Pfizer, I interned with a beverage company, I interned at Universal Records at the time. And so those internships and those sound skills that I was able to develop while I was in those roles really set me up to be able to go into a marketing role within corporate. I was maybe a little bit different. I knew very early on that I wanted to be in beauty. Once I went to get my cosmetology license, I knew that I was passionate about it and I was determined that I was going to land into the beauty space. And so I was very strategic about the connections that I made. I was very strategic about the companies I sought after, and I just really made sure that I was always connecting with other women that were in beauty. And fortunately for me, the skills that I acquired kind of opened the doors for me. And they were the same skills that people told me were gonna kind of work against me, because when you go to school and you get an MBA, and then you go get a cosmetology license and you work in a salon, people are gonna tell you, I don't know what's wrong with you, you're wasting your mother's money. But ironically, those same skills opened the door for me, and once I was in that environment, it's also what allowed me to excel, because I really understood the consumer on a different level than someone who only had, the business background. So for much of my early career, not only did I do marketing, but I then ran into our test salon and I tested the products. So all of our initial products that we launched on Cream of Nature with argan oil, even our hair color, I hand tested all of those products. So I knew exactly what was coming out of the gate, and that kind of, set me up, for success. And it just allowed me to continue to work in the beauty space. So you're in New York, you're in the beauty mecca, so you need to get out and network and maybe join CEW, which is a Cosmetic Executive Women's Board. So there'll be a lot of networking opportunities there, and you'll get an opportunity to meet a lot of women in beauty.
Thank you.
That's really good. Next question, please.
So we talk a lot in our community about food deserts and what happens in underprivileged communities that they don't have access to good food. The opposite is also true with hair. We have hair deserts where we live because of where we work, because we might not be in an area where there are a lot of us. what are you guys doing as brand ambassadors in your company to kind of bring more of your products to where we are, because we can't always get to where you are?
That is a great question. I mean, that's the work that I do every day of figuring out how do we expand in store, how do we expand online, how do we let you know that we've expanded online. We recently expanded 1,000 stores and markets that you wouldn't consider high African American markets in order to do just that, to bring access, but we still haven't made it. We'll have probably another 1,000 stores we expand to. And then really focusing on .com, we have a new .com website that is for women with textured hair to serve them. So you have somewhere with tutorials of what products to use, what are the new items out there, and then the shipping is very quick. You can pick it up at the store, you can ship direct to your house. So there's a lot of different things we're using technology in order to bridge that gap.
That was a really good question. Next question, please.
Hi. So I know that this session is about hair politics in the workplace. I'd like to take the conversation maybe outside of the workplace and ask your opinion about maybe teachable moments for children or different romantic partners. Let me explain. This is G-rated, so exhale. So a friend of mine who is white, I slept over her house, and she has a little son, and this looks different right at night, and then in the morning, there's something on my head when I wake up. And so he saw me when I woke up in the morning, and because children cannot lie, right, just had a lot of questions about, what is that on your head? How come that wasn't on your head when you went to bed last night? And it was I saw it as a teachable moment to explain my hair is different than mommy's and so on and so forth. But can either of you or any of you up there maybe give some hints about educating those whose hair might be different about our hair?
I think just share, you know. I think that what you did was correct. You know, I think that our hair and our struggles with our hair in our community have been taboo. You know, if you think about it, it's kind of something that we talk about together, but we don't really talk about, or we don't allow others, you know, to hear. But I think that we're far beyond that. And if you have a friend, someone obviously, you know, that you're very close to, I think they would want to know, you know, more about your hair. And I love the questions that he asked. So I think, you know, talking to people about what's going on with your hair, you would be surprised at how much people want to learn. And you would also be surprised at the commonality that you can find between yourself and other women. So we talk a lot about the natural hair movement in our community, but we're actually seeing a surge of women, all women, wearing their hair curly more often. So we talk about it, but when we go to our counterparts and we talk to the general market population, a lot of them did not grow up wearing their hair curly. So I've had some incredible conversations, you know, traveling and in the airport with women, and we found that we have more in common than they do with some of their counterparts that wear their hair straight, because they're using Ford products too. Yep. And we're sitting there talking, you have Ford, what do you use? I just had a conversation with a lady who told me, she was like, girl, I do a wash and wave. And I thought that was so cute because I had never heard that before. And she knew you don't do the wash and go that we do. You do a wash and wave. And we sat there and we had a conversation. A woman I didn't even know about products that she uses because the journey was similar. So I think we just have to share, and we have to be open. I mean, maybe because I work in beauty, but I'm unapologetic. I got to put this do-rag on because I need to lay these edges down so they're not sticking up. And it's who I am, and we celebrate it, you know? So I think you did right. Just educate people. The more they know, they'll be able to, you know, understand. And I think that your friend's son will be better able to deal with kids in his school who may have hair like you, because he'll understand it a lot better. And so he won't think of it as being foreign or strange.
To your point about the general population having curly hair, 65% of Americans have curly hair. Most of them are wearing it getting up in the morning, blow drying their hair, and wearing it straight. So there definitely is a movement across the board, like you said, to more natural. 34% of my shoppers in the multicultural aisle are actually white, which most people don't know that because they need products
Yes.
for their curly hair.
They use foam wraps. I mean, the same thing for Cream of Nature. I see women picking up foam wraps, you know, who are not African American. You have to remember now, people are also picking it up for their kids, where maybe they have a partner, you know, who's African American, and now they are raising children with textured hair.
Yes.
And you know, I'm in the store, I've been in the store sometimes, and people are like, excuse me, can you come and help my wife? And I look and I'm like, well, not unless she wants me to, you know, she has to be okay with it. But, you know, products are products. As a cosmetologist, hair is either curly, wavy, or straight at the end of the day. And we get into the types and we get into, you know, all of these other things, but that's what hair is. It's curly, wavy, or straight. And so curly hair is curly hair, and women who have it, they're gonna have a lot of similarities with you. Maybe not the shrinkage that we have, but they're gonna also wanna reduce frizz. You know, they're also gonna wanna control it and make sure that it looks consistent every day. So there's a lot of similarities out there.
That's really good. Yes.
Hi, my name is Anita Barksdale. I'm gonna just speak loudly. I went natural in 2001, so it's been a while, but I started my journey in Washington, D.C. I moved to Texas, and I've been in professional services firms or law firms the entire career. Now that I'm in leadership, a lot of Black women are looking up to me, and I've been extremely conservative. How you see my hair now is most likely what I've been doing for the last years, because it helps make it very easy to talk to people. They see a consistent, and you know, they're just able to tell who I am every time. But I do want to you've given me some great tips for the people that are coming into our firm. The difference between working with people every day and being in a professional services firm is you might see them once, you might see them every other month, you might see them a couple of times, but it may take some time before they get to know you as a person, that they know that you can deliver great work. What things would you tell me to help the generation coming after me in terms of how to really work on their hair journey? Because they don't get as much time to have that, you know, opportunity to build that trust and camaraderie.
Well, I will just have to say, as a leader, unless you're just comfortable with your hair back in a bun, I mean, that may be your thing and your look, but if you want to wear your hair out, show up that way. You will make leaps and bounds for those people that are behind you. Our executive vice president over consumables, Latrice Watkins, was on the cover, not the cover, but was it the cover? Yes. Or inside the Essence magazine with her natural hair. And what that has done across the organization at Walmart is groundbreaking, just because she showed up in a major syndication with her hair natural. And I lived in Texas before, so I understand what you're talking about. But if you do it, it just opens the gate for them.
Yeah, and I think also talk to them about their professional brand, you know? Because I think when we focus on don't wear your hair a certain way, or don't style it, or don't change it too much because this person won't be comfortable with it, then millennials, we're automatic, like, girl, let me get a new hairstyle. We're not gonna do that. But I do talk about my brand, you know? And sometimes that does mean that I'm gonna have a certain look, because I understand completely what you say. I sometimes show up at conferences and people walk right past me, and you know, I've been there for 2 days. Tania, I didn't know you were here. And it's just simply because I changed my hair, maybe I changed my hair color, and that's okay. But I do think you can talk to them about branding and talk to them about the complete package and the complete look and how we're showing up, you know, and that people very much see you as a brand. And so the same way we create these brands and we create a DNA for the brand, I believe as a personal brand, you should also have a structure. You should also have some words that describe you. You know, are you going to, you know, have a brand where you're bold, you know, you're colorful? Like, okay, you can see from my suit, I'm gonna wear some color. So it's no mistake about that. but someone else may be a little bit more subdued or a little bit more passive. But if it's in them and they just love to change their hair, you won't be able to change it. And I don't think you should. Just embrace it. It's a part of who they are. But I think have those conversations to them about how important to be a brand is just as important as your work.
That's really good. And our last question.
Hello, my name is Taylor Goodrich. I work at Ariel Investments, which is a Black-owned investment firm in Chicago. Thank you guys for all you're doing. I'm actually known for changing my hair every other month, so I love this conversation. My question is actually directed at you, Angel. I was wondering your perspective on, I'm sure you're aware of Richelieu Dennis and his take on how he wanted Shea Moisture to not be in the multicultural section in stores. And so since you lead the multicultural products, I was wondering your perspective on his point of Shea Moisture not being just for women like us, for all women, and that's why he wanted his products to be separate. I personally like going in one area and knowing where everything is supposed to be, so I wanted to know your perspective and yours as well on that.
So when that happened with Shea Moisture, I wasn't at Walmart. I wasn't on this desk, and I had very strong opinions about it, mostly about how the Black community attacked it so hard and how we don't give grace to businesses for doing things that could be disruptive. On the flip side, if you just look from a strictly business case, they know who is shopping that product because they're in baby. They're in body care, so soaps and lotions and oils, and then they're also in hair. And then when you look at hair, it's not just African Americans that are buying it. It's the women that do have a looser curl pattern, the 2A to 2C, that buy that product. So there is a need for Shea Moisture to have lighter formulas and be in the general market set. Now, with that being said, as a buyer, I'm like, no, I'm protecting my set. This is for us. We need to have this in our set. But you don't want to ever hinder a brand from growing because you're protective of that. And I've seen that multiple times across different businesses that may have sold to a bigger corporation, or they're expanding how they speak to the consumer, that we as Black people get really defensive and want it for us because we haven't had a lot of stuff that's for us. But for a company to grow and to represent all that they are, they have to move just past one niche because other people want it. It's good product. It's made with natural ingredients. It does help your hair look the bomb. So why not serve that across multiple categories? And I think it really spurred Walmart to say, why is the aisle even separated in the beginning? Why are we segmenting her and making her go to the back of the store behind that next to the pet food to get her little 4-foot section? Now we're integrating the mod because we see there is a lot of crossover.
That is really good. Okay, so as we wrap, I want to ask one last question. And my question is, how can women make a statement in the workplace with their tresses? All right, Tania, all eyes are on you.
All eyes are on me. Yeah. Make a statement in the workplace with your tresses. Show up with the hair that you want to have, you know? I mean, and I'm thinking about that because when I select my style, I select it for me, you know? I select it based on what I want to do and how I feel. And a funny story, Angel, I don't even know if she knows this, but my very first meeting with her, she had braids in her hair. And I was like on the fence about putting braids into my hair. And I was like, well, what color am I going to have? And I'm in beauty. I work in the beauty care every day. But I have the same concerns that you all have. People still going to say, well, how long did it take? All of these different questions are going to arise. And so I saw her, and we had a conversation about it. And I was like, oh, I'm getting my blonde braids. Okay. You know, so I think that it's very much a personal decision. So I would say let's look less at making a statement in the workplace. Let's just figure out what we want to look like, you know, for ourselves. And what do we want to exude as women, you know? And I think that just make sure that you consult with someone on your image, on your hair. I think that's very important. I can't say that enough. You don't have to do it alone. And the 2 tips that I give women if you're going to go natural and it's something that's new for you, there are 2 things that you must do. The very first thing is shape your hair. You want to have a haircut. That is a no-no to just let your hair grow out and not have a shape. A shaping of your hair and your style can change your style completely, and it can make the time that you have to put into your hair so much easier. So I cannot stress that enough. Have someone shape your hair. The second thing is consider hair color. Hair color also can make a big difference. And it doesn't have to be a blonde hair color. A lot of times when we see our natural hair, we feel that it's dull, or sometimes we often say that it's dry when it's really soft because of the color. And so the color just doesn't look like that rich color that we were used to when maybe we had our hair straight. But we used a lot of silicones when we were straightening our hair, and so that added this shine. And when your hair is straight, it automatically reflects light and looks shinier. So consider hair color. Even if you don't want to do the blonde, if you don't want to do a burgundy or a red, just do a tone on tone. There is nothing more beautiful than a dark brown hair color. I promise you it's going to make your hair pop a lot more. So those are my top 2 tips for working it.
I like that. Angel?
So I would say it just depends on your personality. A lot of times, all Black people get bucketed and we act. They expect us to act and be a certain way. But we run the gamut from people that don't want a lot of attention. They don't want people to come ask them about their hair, so they're gonna be very conservative in how they wear their hair because it's about the work. Then you have the middle ground people who are more into what is popular at the time. I don't wanna stand out, but I don't wanna be looking left behind. And then you have people like us who fall in this third category of we're always going to be bold, we're always going to be extra. We're going to be Debbie Allen dancing across the stage, twirling.
Yes.
And that's part of our brand. So I think it's really important to know who you are and where you fit into that, and then your hair should reflect that. You shouldn't be forcing anything. You shouldn't be forcing like, oh, well, she got blonde hair and she's multicultural buyer, so let me snazz my hair up and do something like that. Do what is authentic to you and what's beautiful to you, and then that's it.
This has been incredible. Let's give it up for Angel and Tania and for